So in April 2006, there was the very first conference on farm succession planning in Australia. It was held in Dubbo. And I immediately thought, I'm interested in that. I'll go along and just see what are the themes that people say. And there was clearly a message that came from it. It was called The Many Paths. And it said that a whole lot of very, very basic ideas like start early, talk about it over a long time, allow everyone to be involved in talking about what they design in terms of the outcome. And the other thing was that it was clear that there's several different types of competencies or professional people you want present to be over a long period of time. And based on need, every business is different, every family's different, every farm's different. So those competencies are agricultural consultant people who look at productivity. Is it a viable business? Is it, how will we progress or improve on it? There are people who reflect on the cash flow, like accountants and financial planners and that sort of thing. There's people who help with wills and estates, so they tend to be solicitors. And there's people like myself who actually facilitate meetings, making sure that all of the people have a say, all of the people can be behaved well enough to be creating while they talk. And so it's what's called a multidisciplinary model, which is like many disciplines coming together and assisting a group of people or a farming business progress the asset from one generation to the next. So that was the real theme that came out of that conference. The way I see it is there's several steps in the migration of an asset from one generation to the next, or the transition. The first is, what is the asset and how productive is it and what's the nature of the business? Is there any way to improve on that productivity? Because if it can be improved on, it needs to be considered in the whole planning process. So agricultural consultants, because the industry is agriculture, they need to be involved. They commonly become involved, agronomists, agricultural consultants. So they look at productivity, their systems within the farming business that could be improved upon to deliver better outcomes in terms of productivity. It also, that indirectly affects on the value of the asset too, and the income from the asset being the farm. The next bit is a retirement plan. The generation who own the asset, the farm, need to get a plan of how they might retire and step back, because they need to be ready to step back. And there's also a generation who needs to be ready to step forward. So the timing of those two things are really important. But for the generation who are stepping back, they need a retirement plan of what they're going to do, when they're going to live, what activities they're going to do, how they're going to support themselves financially, what income they need for that period of time. Because we're not sure how long we're going to be here for. So that's a really important process that they need to reflect on, and quite often in that step they consult with financial people, accountants and planners and that sort of thing, financial planners. So the third sort of step in the journey is wills and estate planning. So do the people who own the asset have a will? Have they planned? How is that going to be managed and dispersed? And so again, it's a different discipline that comes along there. It tends to be solicitors, lawyers who advise and make sure that there's actually a process in place. Sometimes it can be hard for the people in the group, in the family, to emotionally consider something, to intellectually consider something. So there'll be a pause in the dialogue between the different parties. And sometimes it can become to the point where they stop talking. Or they just need someone to help them manage the meetings. So that's when I come along, and I have a role in terms of that process. So it's not a specific point, it can be any number of points, but my contact is brief I'm just there to guide and assist and manage the meeting so that all the voices get heard, the natural order of seniority in the group get honoured and their opinions are heard, and also the opinions of the people with a small voice can be heard too.